Hello, friends. Welcome back to Erico Blueberry, an unassuming Destiny podcast. This is episode 15. My name is chillybin.
I'm Meckii.
What are we? Episode 15. Week 14. 2 weeks away from the 30th anniversary event. Still not a lot to do in the game, but plenty of stuff happening outside the game. For the first time in Erico Blueberry history, I'm trying to avoid the word unprecedented because I've said it enough in the last 18 months. Meckii, would you like to issue our first ever correction?
Yeah, of course it's going to come from me, huh?
They reached out to you, so I kind of have to
No, but of
throw
course
it your
I
way.
made the mistake.
It's all right.
It's only a small one, and I really appreciate how kindly they reach out to me patiently just to be like, hey, that information you saw is not entirely correct. So the CEO and slash founder of Guardians MH, Guardians Mental Health, reached out to me after listening to our episode last week, which I really appreciate. Thank you, homie, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I misspoke when I said that Bungie funded the project or gave money towards the project. I found out that that was misinformation. Whoopsies, might be. Like, genuinely, I am actually sorry. Yes, so Guardians MH is entirely self-funded. They're a not-for-profit. And it's funded by donations and the members. So I just wanted to make that very clear. And they also have a donations page, so if you want to help out. But all their kits are free and they're put together and purchased, like all the components are purchased and printed by members of Guardians MH.
Yeah, very cool stuff they're doing. Very cool of them to reach out to us and sort of, nudge us in the right direction. And yeah, very kind of them to watch and actually, check us out and not just be like, cool, move on. So thank you to them for that, I should say.
Yeah, and they align with what we want to be in the community as well, which is like a wholesome, healthy, positive influence on the community.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Corrections done. Hopefully we don't have to do too much of that in the future. No promises. Please forgive.
We both have very big mouths.
We do, and I often like to drink a beer while we record this. And I always wonder if that's going to loosen my tongue to a point that it shouldn't. But so far, so good, I think. Please sound off in the comments if I've said something and you know it's wrong.
One oopsie on the board for me.
Yeah, cool. 0 to 1. We'll take that. Where were we? I've just lost my place in these show notes. Cool. So we've covered that. That's good. Done. Real quick, because I said there wasn't much in the game, I still have done a little bit of gardening, I'm going to call it, like things I meant to get to and I've only just got to now, or, finally dealing with the depression pile, another way of looking at it.
Cleaning your bounties.
That's it. More my seasonal challenges. So I was sitting at 74 out of 75 for quite a while because all I had left was like trials round wins, a couple of other ones that are like not really part of how I play Destiny that much. And the other one was like get the Vanguard ornament for Ascendancy, which is really rough. Like grinding up all those strike ranks takes quite a while. Obviously, like I think Nightfalls and Grandmasters give you more points, but it still takes a while, even with the 5 streak for the activity bonus. But I finally ticked that box this week, so I've got all 3 of those Ascendancy ornaments. I've done my seasonal challenge. I've stocked up all the Bright Dust. And then I've already spent a bunch of it because there was finally an ornament in the Bright Dust store this week for Necrotic Grip that makes it not look like it's like pulsating with green bullshit. Because there's a lot, like I like running that exotic, but I also am not always a fan of how it looks if I'm trying to do certain like fashion fits. So I want to have that option to have Necrotic Grips. Is it Grips or Grip? Doesn't matter. I want to have that option to have Necrotic Grips and not necessarily have to build the whole look around it to make it work, you know?
Yeah, that ornament's very clean too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I think it's part of like, you know, this season there's a lot of Reef and Mara kind of stuff with her symbols all over it. It's one of those. I don't know if it's a new one, but it's certainly like of that style.
Yeah.
Takes shaders pretty well too, which is handy.
Yeah, see, I don't mind the original necrotic grip.
Oh, me neither.
If I had them,
Go get them.
I've
Now's
been
the perfect
trying.
time.
But I also love gross, icky shit. Our nickname for my character is the trash deer or the garbage goblin. So
Yes.
it's on brand for them to be gross.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have to be careful at the moment with the Bungie store. They've just dropped some pretty cool stuff. They've refreshed some of the 30th anniversary stuff that was maybe out of stock. And they're also going through what they're calling gala days leading up to December when the 30th anniversary thing launches. Every day there's basically a new thing, kind of like an advent calendar. So today it was like so there's the Grimoire like hardcover books that they release. Today, well, as of today, you can go and just download a free digital copy of the latest one that I haven't even got yet, and I paid for the book because it's just, you know, tied up in shipping delays and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know what else is coming down the pipe. I hope it's not is like one day it's going to be like, cool, we're dropping new stuff that you can buy, because then it's like, oh, I wish I could have just waited, bought it at the end. Maybe it's out of stock. It's yeah. If it's all just free stuff that you can like download and not have to stress about, that's pretty cool. But I'd be worried about people getting trapped in a hole of like every day, oh no, I've got to put another order in because I want that thing. Especially when for us, shipping to Australia fucking sucks. I bought a couple of things today, and the shipping was almost more than the items themselves.
Yeah, so window shopping with error code Blueberry.
Yeah.
I purchased the women's cropped pullover hoodie with the cutout elbows today because
it's cropped at the elbow.
Yeah, it's great because I love cropped clothing and I also love the aesthetic that they've gone with this. So immediately I was like,
yeah.
Hey, Mum, you said you didn't know what to get me for Christmas. I found something. And she was like, yeah, I'll get that for you. But it was like the hoodie is $50 USD and then shipping to Australia was $26. So shipping just that one hoodie at the moment is half the cost of my hoodie.
My shipping was nearly $50 US because one of the things I got, I think like it's like a wall flag with this on it, the fucking like 30th anniversary design, because I've got a bunch of like seal pins and I've got that giant pin and I want something to actually like mount them all in, and that looks perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's enough space because I keep getting more of these fucking things because I can't help myself. And the thing that I've got to display them in now is getting full. And okay, the 30th anniversary pin, right? Solid metal,
beefy.
It's thick, so it actually doesn't fit in the display case I've got. I wonder if I can hang on. Let me do the hand thing.
The beauty influencer.
There it is. That's a thick boy.
I want one so bad, but like the shipping is just
I could
too much.
straight up kill someone with this. It is solid metal. It's ridiculous.
Their pins are so beefy that they've actually got. I've got the Bungie
the locking pin backs.
Yeah,
that
and I was like,
look like they
really
take a little Allen key.
That's like, if you want to put them on your backpack and you don't want to lose them, that's a really good idea.
I've got locking pin backs for some other stuff, but they're just like, it's got a little thing on the top. It's like a little top that you pull and it locks onto the thing.
It's like a base.
Yeah, it looks like you screw it on. Yeah, it's nuts, but I get it.
Especially if their pins are going to continue on the path of the...
I don't think that, because I've got some of their other pins from the past, and they're not that chunky.
Even the normal pins are quite substantial because they are that metal. They're a die cast, right?
So well, the seal pins are pretty thin, like they're solid metal, but they're quite thin. So maybe I don't know. They're thinner than my
Yeah.
phone, for example.
But if it got caught on something, for
Oh
example.
yeah, like they're also this big.
Yeah.
So I get it. And the pins, like the same as this, they're two pins at the top, so it's not like an even distribution of force or pressure. So yeah, if you caught the bottom of it, probably just going to rip that thing right off.
But the locking backs are great.
Yeah, I love those. They seem hectic and like potentially over-engineered, but also good insurance for not losing those pins.
Yeah. She's looking at the new. This is just us spruiking.
Yeah, this is straight up just window shopping / unpaid advertising.
Before we say this though, their merch is all really well made and really nice, and it's the only game merch I buy anymore.
I'm not buying the underwear. That's like I've got some limits.
I thought about it, but I was like, what if they did it but in women's?
I thought about like the Gambit underwear for the meme, but also no. Don't want that.
Like the Techion hoodie? That's really nice.
That thing is such a cool design. Not something I would actually wear, but I've looked at it a few times. I'm like, damn, that is such a cool look.
Yeah,
like
I bought the
long
women's
fit. It's so nice
with the high collar.
Yeah,
I bought the women's cropped. Well, I sent my mom a wish list, and she was like, "Okay, I'll buy you the hoodie, but we'll see what else she slipped in there."
We'll buy you the hoodie, but also settle down.
Aegis Scepter beanie is really nice. The dad caps are really nice.
Yeah, the 5-panel camper hat.
Yeah,
I'm such a sucker for that.
If I wore them, I don't really wear a lot of colorful clothes, as you just have to be watching this show regularly to realize neither of us are super colorful people. But I can approve.
That sounds so dark.
It does. We're just dark people. The Dido pullover sweatshirt looks really good.
Yeah.
Like it all looks. They've done really well.
Yeah.
And my bank account is crying.
Oh, dude, tell me about it. Anyway, let's get off this unpaid advertising. Because there's
someone wants to buy me something. No, I'm kidding.
Here's my PO box. Don't have that. Come on. No, like I think a lot of what we're going to cover today. This requires a bit of setup because I don't follow this podcast, and the way I came about finding this episode of this particular podcast is kind of roundabout. So I think I mentioned maybe last step, maybe the one before. I don't really use Reddit that much, but every now and then I look at the Destiny the game and other associated subreddits just to like sometimes there's actually useful information in there, or announcements or people like interpreting things from Bungie and going like, here's what this probably is actually meaning, and I find that kind of stuff interesting. I hate all the like people just being angry about stuff, so it's real hit. Like I'm actually trying to stop looking at it. Anyway, there was a post in there that I came across about the latest episode of the Destiny Community podcast. They have a series called Firing Range. I think it's the 39th episode of that, where they got, get this right, Kevin Yanis and Eric Smith, a couple of Bungie devs on the episode. They've featured in a few of the more recent TWABs, because they're responsible for things like abilities and weapons and sandbox, and that's kind of what's been the hot topic lately with that giant TWAB we talked about last time. But it was just a very detail-oriented, I keep using this word, very crunchy discussion where they were talking about design processes and philosophies behind what they're doing and real nitty-gritty stuff. So I've made a stack of notes and kind of just want to go through those because I more just pulled out the stuff that I found interesting, because what this post was in the subreddit, which I didn't explain, it was almost a transcription. It was someone saying like, "Oh, I'm going to summarize what was talked about," but it was almost just a full transcription. Like it was kind of crazy. I watched like the beginning of the episode and then got the impression that the text was enough. So I'll throw some links in the description for the episode itself, but the summary from the subreddit as well, because I think that's actually just, it's good reading, because it's just, here's the question, here's the answer, similar to like reading an interview. So yeah, I can't think of a better way to do this than to just kind of go through the notes as I've dumped them in here. Because it also, they're kind of just chronologically ordered already. So they talked initially about sort of the moving to a more weapons-focused sandbox, which, you know, was the focus of that abilities TWAB, the fucking 6,000-word thesis or whatever it was. And yeah, they're saying that it was like partially motivated by what they refer to as the heat of stasis, which I found kind of, I don't know, oxymoronic in a sense. But it's not ice; it's darkness crystals. But it's also them. I think we sort of talked about this last time. It's them kind of resetting the foundation of the game as my dog enters the shop behind me, and the pace of the game, because you know there's countless clips of people in Crucible matches just spamming abilities. I think there was one that you sent me during the week of like from a trials match, 2 Titan barricades in a doorway, plus some other bullshit in there. And like the other team this is from the other team's perspective, they're just like hammering that doorway because they were pretty sure if they flanked, they were just going to get murked. But I was looking at it like, okay, yeah, I see why they're trying to turn down abilities a bit, but also why are you banging your head against this doorway? Take your whole team and go around the side.
3 separate doorways they could have flanked through in that map.
Pick one and go there as a group.
I shouldn't laugh, but not in trials, but that's the kind of shitheadery that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love stacking abilities like that.
Yeah, or my favorite mayhem tactic, the Titan bubble centipede. Just, I've got a bubble, and then it comes up quick enough that I can just take a step forward and put another one, and then I just slowly walk around the map giving my team damage buffs. It's so dumb.
And I pop my head out occasionally to Chaos Reach and shuffle back in.
Yeah, but they were kind of emphasizing the fact that, like, while it looks like they're making a lot of changes all at once, it is them kind of resetting that foundation, which they will then build on top of, right? So this is coming in December with the 30th anniversary stuff, and they will build the Void 3.0 stuff on top of those changes. And then when they get to, you know, Solar and Arc 3.0, same foundation, right? And they'll tune all those systems, but now that they're able to do things like, you know, variable ability cooldowns.
Sorry, Achilles chewing their own foot.
Yeah, not in the shot for the episode, by the way. You can see that, but I propped my shot down.
Sorry.
He's, okay, my dog right behind me is trying to, like, clean part of his leg, so his whole fucking leg is just in his mouth, because that's the only way he knows how to do that. You good, homie? So what?
Oh, sorry. I just looked over and he had his hand in his mouth and he was like, oh, Erica dog.
Yes, Erica dog. I've fucking lost my point. Yeah, so while it seems like a lot of drastic changes, they like throughout the interview made the point that it will still evolve, it will still change. This is kind of just the first pass. Later, like we saw this with a bunch of stuff they've been saying recently, but they brought it up again in this interview of, you know, they're able to make changes a lot more quickly now than they used to be able to. So if they find something is coming in a bit hot, they can balance that pretty quickly. Or if it's Telesto, they can just turn it off.
Yeah, but then they did actually like alive.
Telesto got a mention because someone mentioned like self-damage as a way to exploit this new ability system, and they were like, yeah, if it's Telesto, we hope it's not, but you know, fuck Telesto.
Telesto resurrected itself
as a Hive Guardian.
Oh no.
Wait, no. So we've got Hive Guardians, right? And they're basically trying to pitch that as it should feel like a mirror, like you're fighting yourself. What is the Hive Telesto equivalent?
Oh, that's almost nightmarish.
Yeah, remember when like Briggs and what's the fucking vexed chicken thing? What is it actually called?
Hydras?
No, they're the flying ones.
Wyverns.
Wyverns. Okay, Wyverns and Briggs. Remember when they dropped and we were like, what the fuck?
And they were
Hive
red.
Telesto.
Yucky.
Yeah, there's some Hive war god that's used the weapon crafting station. They're like, we've heard of this thing called Telesto.
It won't fucking die.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so they're moving on, sort of saying, you know, there's a lot of moving parts with the changes, and it's impossible to test everything. Like, this is always the case with an online game that is as popular as Destiny, is like, you can never hire enough playtesters to match how many people play the game. They're always going to find stuff after release. Like, that is just the reality.
I mean,
they've playtested the shit out of it, don't get me wrong, but there's always going to be combinations that they just didn't prioritize or didn't have time for. So
yeah. And I mean, communities like the cheese community and speedrun community exist because imaginative people have pushed the game to its limits.
Yep. They were saying that like players will basically always find loopholes and ways to exploit changes and systems. But yeah, they're able to adjust a lot faster, so it'll come out and they'll just kind of like balance it within a week, you know, if they need to. I wrote this down as because I just want to read this quote from Kevin Yanis because it's so funny to me. The sole mission statement that I keep hammering home is, I want to find out about this before Cheese Forever posts a goddamn video about it. So good. And also just like such acknowledgement and recognition of what the community does with their game, where they're like calling out specific creators of like, love your work, but also, man, is it a pain in the ass sometimes. It's just so funny. Next bit was sort of around exotics that complete the ability loop, which took me a while to kind of get. They're talking about, you know, exotics that specifically work with an individual ability, like grenades or melee or, I guess, class ability, which is more of just a hunter thing probably, but I don't know, warlocks get a fair bit.
Warlocks get a few. We get Crown of Tempest.
Titans basically don't have a class ability exotic. Other maybe Icefall Mantle, because it turns it into that weird shield. Anyway, they were saying things like, you know, Controverse Hold, Armamentarium, which is a Titan exotic for extra grenades, Omnioculus, or what do you like to call it, Nipnops?
The weird, chest like, the of many hunter, Nipnops.
Yeah, the chest of many Nipnops, that's the one.
Or we called it Eyeball Nipnops too.
That's it. Yes. Because they were saying that like they don't want to take that away when it comes to like crafting a build maybe around a specific ability. They're hoping that what this stops is the stuff that you see a lot of in like compilation videos where it's like you get a grenade kill and then immediately you have your grenade back and then you can just like spam that shit constantly.
Oh yeah. So basically
that's no fun.
They want to focus on things that facilitate abilities rather than feed abilities. So it's not a feeder perk where it's feeding back in immediately.
Well, I think it's also, again, like they're focusing on making gunplay and weapons more of the focus again, whereas right now it feels like set up your build so that you constantly have grenades, and that is now your focus. And then you might as well just not have guns. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of like, that's kind of two parts of the same problem of like, we want to focus more on guns, but also abilities are doing way too much work right now. And people are kind of, exploiting some of those like cooldown negation exotics and all that sort of stuff. Where am I up to? There's so much in here. It was kind of funny. So talking about like, obviously that is forcing some rethinking about the ways that exotics fit into builds, but they actually just want people to nerd out about builds more, it seems. And they want, like, they're trying to or hoping that this will force people to maybe look at exotics they've just never fucked with, which is definitely my problem. Like, I get into a groove and I've got like maybe 3 to 4 per class that I know how to play with and I like playing with. Mostly because the way that they work, the ability that they work with, is not something I care for, or the cooldowns don't work for me, and I just don't bother. So they're hoping that this will lead to people kind of going, oh, I want to play this kind of way. Now these abilities are actually way faster to regen or way slower. How do I solve that problem? How do I build around that? And I think they talked a lot about, like, your camera's just fucking gone to space. They talked about, like, some of the changes with the Arc Hunter subclass specifically, because that's where there's a fair amount of tweaking between, like, the Hunter Arc Grenade becoming super powerful with a super long cooldown. And then maybe people are going to build around that because they want that one-hit kill with that grenade, and they want to create a build that gets them there faster. So that's going to be really interesting. That was sort of the thing I was curious about, right? Like, I've got my preferred playstyles, but how much work is it going to take me to try some other things out? Because they seem appealing. But yeah, on one-hit kills, they were talking about, initially they had actually had a plan to actually try to remove one-hit kills entirely. Like, you think about complaints around the Titan shoulder charge or shatter dive, those sorts of things, where it's like, as long as you can get the setup, and a lot of them are a little too easy, you're going to kill someone in PvP.
Yeah.
So yeah, they eventually, like, softened that approach to say, we're not trying to take away one-hit kills. I think it's more a case of, like,
earn them.
Yeah, so some of them now take a bit more work, or the cooldowns have shifted, because those power spikes, which is a phrase they use, the power spikes are exciting, and they fulfill that power fantasy. They give you those moments that sort of keep you hooked on that combat loop. So yeah, we'll still see some pretty strong, things like shoulder charges and things like that, but they won't kill necessarily. So I think I mentioned this last time, Peregrine Greaves got a shout out by DMG to say, like, this might help you now. You might want to pick this up and use it because it is specifically tied to shoulder charge abilities.
Yeah.
Airborne shoulder charge abilities. That's how little I've used it, and I'm a Titan main. I can't even remember what it's good for. So we'll reassess again when all of this hits. I'm about halfway through these notes. I've done a lot of talking. I'm going to wet my whistle. Any thoughts from you so far on any of this?
Not really. I'm doing what we both tend to do, which is like, yeah, we'll look into it, but we'll hold a lot of our reservations and concerns for when we actually get our hands on. Because it's fine to look at the last week's TWAB and get worried. But then just under a week after this podcast comes out, and they clarify even further. So any concerns I had last week are pretty much, listening to the podcast and reading the notes, have pretty much been quelled, because
I'm
hearing it
feeling
fleshed out. Yeah, hearing it fleshed out in a discourse and a conversation between a group of people is totally different from reading reading a sentence and interpreting it for yourself.
Well, it's basically the difference between, like, if the TWAB is like the change log for the actual code. Yeah. This conversation, this interview, is more like the press release for the product update, right? It's the more customer-facing side of things of, here's why we're doing these things. Here's an indication of maybe how it's going to feel, how it's going to play. Because the TWAB was just all like, we're changing this number from 1.2 to 1.4. We're changing this percentage value. It's like, okay, what does that mean in practice?
Yeah, and I think all gaming communities have this, but I see it. The Destiny community tends to be a little bit louder from experience, but I see a lot of people taking their interpretation of something and running with it.
Yes. Yes.
So I often don't express my interpretation of things publicly or take my own interpretation as gospel. Because as we've learnt over the last few seasons and the last DLC and the last few updates, it's not going to work out the way that often the loudest people in the community have interpreted that it will.
Yeah, spot on.
So there's really no point in getting upset about it, but like at the same time I really appreciate, you know, Bungie members like Kevin and Eric coming onto these community podcasts and saying, hey, yeah, there was a lot to take in. Let's kind of boil it down into community terms and layman terms to kind of assuage? Yeah, words. Assuage. Right? Julian Assange those fears.
WikiLeaks those fears. Yeah, I think it's like I'm always very careful. Like after that TWAB, like I love sort of digging into this sort of stuff, but I'm always very careful with my language to be like, here's what I think this means, but I'll always say at the end of that sentence, I'm going to wait and see how it is when it comes in, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, because I read that TWAB and some of the stuff around like cooldowns felt like, oh, these are all going to be super long, but I haven't actually got it in the notes here, but there was something in the interview about like on average cooldowns are slightly longer, but the greatest difference is maybe 10 to 20%. It's not actually that much for any one of them.
Yeah.
So by the time it comes out, it will probably not be as bad as some people want to think it is. But we just don't know, right? Because it's also a huge set of changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, diving back into the notes, because the rest of these should be pretty quick to get through. They talked a bit about, you know, the super regeneration, the passive regeneration, and you remember they had the tiers of like tier 5, like Well of Radiance, that's it. These are the fastest, and then tier 1 being the slowest. Intellect is still only for passive super regen. They made that pretty clear. And they talked a fair bit about like the active super regen being based on combat participation. I don't know if they talked about like what exactly within combat or if it's just getting kills, getting ability damage, that sort of thing. I would imagine it's probably assists and kills based because that's already how it works. But they might just be tweaking sort of how much you get from that. That's just me guessing, honestly. But what they were saying is like you might have between two supers, if they're in different tiers, if somebody is just sitting, if someone's got a faster super regen and they're just sitting there waiting for it, someone with a slower super regen might be able to get it quicker if they're getting into fights.
They're in active combat.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's like, it's a really interesting, fun change because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but all super regen at the moment is passive plus like orb pickup plus a little bit for kills or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
You can't really like boost it too much.
Yeah,
and things
they
like
especially
Shards
after
of Galanor and that, like they just refund up to 50% once you've used it. But in terms of getting there in the first place.
Yeah, and then recently they nerfed shards and geomags and
so it's capped
things
at
that
50.
were doing that, yeah. So it's mostly just passive plus orb collection plus elemental wells.
Oh yeah,
I think
I have not touched those because I went so hard down the charge with light route. I've never fucked with war mines. I've never fucked with elemental wells. It seems like there's some cool stuff in there, but I would have to change a lot of things.
I went hard in the paint with war mines, and then around DSC I built a charged with light build that I used on our run, our day one run.
Yeah.
And now I'm pretty heavily into wells.
Yeah,
But when you think about how much I use my abilities, like my grenade and my
true.
melee, I use them quite a lot.
Yeah, whereas Charged with Light is not really suited to that, depending on depending on which way you go with it. But yeah, it's not really
Basically, I
that.
play my warlock like a titan.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so that was more about the regen. They specifically called out the viability of the hunter in PvE endgame. They were sort of saying that, like, as it stands right now, hunters are kind of dominant in PvP and garbage in PvE, just in terms of like how the abilities and stuff stack up. They basically said like they're comfortable with subclasses being preferred in certain contexts, but they don't want classes to be like, preferred in that same way. They want all three classes to be an option no matter what you're doing. So, they're very much aware of how weak hunters can be in PvE and are working on it. Some of that will, from the sounds of it, get addressed with this patch. Some of it probably doesn't get fixed until Witch Queen. But they kind of made the more general point that while it might seem like they're breaking their rule of PvP and PvE shouldn't feel like different games with the way these changes are kind of branching, it's not actually branching that much, and you should still be able to go and try something in PvE and then apply that to PvP and have it kind of feel the same. Like, they said it was more about context, like context for the amount of power that you bring to the situation.
Yeah.
So like PvE, you're clearing rooms full of enemies. PvP, it's like you might be up against 3 to 6 really like actual humans, 3 to 6 actual humans doing the same shit you're doing. So that's making those foundational changes to be able to tweak things like like same abilities having different cooldowns depending on what you're doing, being able to tweak it for PvP differently to PvE. Their philosophy has not shifted. Like, it should still feel the same.
Yeah.
And that's honestly kind of all the stuff that I pulled through. Some of the stuff I enjoyed the most was when they started talking really specifically about the hunter dodge, because they were talking about stuff like it displaces the hitbox. So like, this is straight like game software engineering shit of like, the hitbox around your character, the game detects a hit. When you hunter dodge, it like fucking shifts that in a way that, I mean, that's the whole point, is you're getting out of the way of a firefight, but it kind of, in the right hands, they were saying it's way too powerful as it stands. Like, in PvP, it breaks your silhouette, it does a bunch of stuff. So that's, again, why they're sort of looking at some of that stuff in PvP differently to PvE. So yeah, like, that's a summary of a podcast that I didn't watch all the way through. So if that all sounds at all interesting, go and check it out. Like I said, links will be down below. There's a whole podcast you can watch, or you can go and read the summary for yourself. I'm cautiously optimistic about how this patch is going to come through. It will potentially be masked by the excitement that I feel for the 30th anniversary event. But I'm definitely going to spend some time just kind of like going through all of my characters, switching my builds, like between what I like to play, and then just getting a feel for like, does this immediately feel different to me?
Yeah.
Just go and like run some patrols or some strikes or something, and just go through the motions, test out the cooldowns, see if it still fits with how I like to play the game, and then just go from there. Like, I'm not going to start making changes now because it wouldn't make sense. I'm going to
stack around in Altars of Sorrow.
Look, I'm gonna stack up some materials in case I need to do a full rebuild or something, but that's about as much prep as I think anyone should be doing right now before we know more.
Yeah, I've been hoarding as well.
Mm.
Just trying to get my shit together so that if my spicy little arc build isn't viable anymore, I can pivot into something else.
Yeah, yeah, and like while you can get some hint from the TWAB with the numbers, it's all contextual, right? Like if you take your build in isolation, yeah, your abilities might now be slower to regen, but depending on what you're doing, who you're playing with or against, it might actually be fine. It might be better than it used to feel. We don't know. We can't possibly say just yet, but soon.
Yeah.
Soon. 2 weeks. Well, less than 2 weeks now. Almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just checking these notes to see if I've missed anything because there was so much. And I didn't even pull all of it in here. I think that's all of it. Yeah, I honestly, I feel like I've burned through that. I don't have a lot else to cover this week.
No, it's been, in terms of the actual game itself, it's been a pretty quiet week.
Yeah.
Just more hoarding. I saw that we got a new emote, which is the pizza scene from Community.
Yes, I did see that on the front page. I wasn't sure if that was a new one.
Watching people put on Twitter them using it in hilarious situations.
It's very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Love the community.
Yeah.
For just shit like that.
Yeah. I think, I mean, that might do it unless there's anything else.
No, that's me for the week as well.
Hmm.
I didn't get up to much. I just got my pinkles this week, and now I'm
still slowly, I'm still slowly collecting those pinkles on my warlock to try and get that up to 1330 gear score. I think I only did like 2 or 3 last week because I just was too busy playing Pokemon, if I'm honest. So I'll do a few more of those this week. Hopefully they land in the right spot and I round out the set and go into Witch Queen with max cap so that it's a plus 50 grind either way, but so that it's less work, I think, initially.
We are now week 74 of Meckii refusing to make another character.
And look, that's fine. I
just level real slow.
Look, what I know of you, your lifestyle, how you play the game, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think you would actually have the time to really sink in and get there just yet.
I'll go roll a support Titan.
I mean, you could. Yeah.
I play my Titans like my Warlocks, and my Warlocks like my Titans.
Yeah. You'd probably want to go like, was it Titan's Rampart, where you can shoot through the barricade, or the Void barricade where you're kind of walking around with a shield in front of you. I can't even remember. I think that's just Middle Tree Void. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah, the other option would be to run Precious Scars, the exotic helmet, where I think it's like when you get a revive, you get an overshield. It's based around reviving teammates. I think it's silly to base your build around reviving teammates, because why would you base your build on an assumption that your teammates are going to die? That just seems like the wrong attitude.
Yeah. I don't know. See, all these new changes might make my support Warlock more viable again. Because until Beyond Light, I very much played a support role. I was Rifts and Well and Overshields and, well, as much of a support role that you could play in Destiny, but that might come back.
Well of Radiance is going to be the only thing in that top tier of passive cooldowns. So it's the fastest super.
Medic Meckii might be back.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. I like a bit of alliteration. Yes, Medic Meckii. Or Meckii the Medic, I think, actually has a better ring to it.
Mediocre Meckii the Medic.
Or, I was going to say Meckii the Mediocre Medic, but that makes it sound like you're shit at your job.
I am.
Okay. And on that note, we'll call it an episode.
Ron
yeah.
Burgundy.
I'm Error Code Blueberry. I think we've done that joke before. Thank you as ever for tuning in. Leave us a like, a subscribe, a comment, whatever takes your fancy. We will be back next week with the final week before we hit this 30th anniversary event. I expect 2 episodes from now to come in here with a whole lot of fucking energy and excitement. But I'm also trying not to get my hopes too high.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The way they're teasing it, I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling we're in for a good time.
It'd be fun.
As someone who's played Destiny since the Taken King, I'm gonna get Gjallarhorn for the first time.
Yeah.
It feels weird. It feels weird, but I'm gonna get it.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be a good
party.
time. Yes.
Tower dance parties. If they don't bring it back, we'll make our own.
Okay. I know we said we're ending the episode, but do you remember, I think it was a raid, and someone in the team dropped like the Lootapalooza key?
Yeah.
Were you there for that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the fuck is this? I was like, I'm pretty sure I've seen a prompt in the hangar to kick this off, but I had never seen one drop. And then we went in there, they started it, we didn't know what to do, and it was really underwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, I tried looking up what you're supposed to do. It was like, oh, you basically just jump around and open some boxes, I guess, like classic Destiny shit, but it was, yeah. I'd never
Party
heard
in the loot
of
cave.
anyone doing it. That's different. Yeah, party in the loot cave is very different. I'll bring the beers. You bring the bitches. I don't know where I'm going with this.
I'm bitches.
Yes. Anyway, let's end it for real this time. I mean the episode. Let's end the episode for real this time. We will see you next time here on Error Code Blueberry. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Love you. Proud of you.
I love you too.